Hey guys, so as you all may know, I like to do a lot of traveling. You've seen a lot of my hiking videos lately, but I thought that today I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to do like another hiking video and things like that. I wanted to talk about 3 of the top national parks to visit in California. Now, keep in mind that these 3 national parks is my own personal opinion. I've visited about 5 national parks in California, and these 3 are by far my favorite because they're just extremely unique. They offer something completely different that, in my opinion, no other national park in California does. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to give you guys some tips on places to visit within the parks and a little bit more information so that in case you guys want to visit these national parks, you guys have an idea of what to expect. So with that said, let's start with number 3. Number 3 on my list is a really cool national park, which is actually about 2.5 hours away east of Los Angeles. This park is called Joshua Tree National Park. What's cool and unique about this park is that it's actually 2 different desert ecosystems. So you have the Colorado Desert and then you have the Mojave Desert. And it's called Joshua Tree because of the fact that it has all of these trees that have been there for thousands of years, and these trees are called Joshua trees. One thing to note about this park is that if you're going to visit, I highly recommend you do it in early spring or late fall and winter. Because of the fact that it's a desert, if you go in the summer, it's gonna be really hot and dry. And also, it's just comfortable to go in late fall or early winter because you don't have to worry about the heat, you don't have to worry about it being so dry, and it's actually really nice and cool. Now, Joshua Tree has a lot of different areas that you can visit. One of those is actually called Keys View. What's cool about Keys View is that it's pretty much this really high hill that gives you an overlook of Coachella Valley. It gives you an overlook of Mount San Gorgonio, which Mount San Gorgonio is actually the highest peak in Southern California, which eventually I will make a vlog about that, trust me. And it's just the fact that you can see the entire Coachella Valley just from a really tall mountain. It's awesome, and it's one of the most beautiful things that you can see, especially during sunset. One thing to know is that if you do decide to go to Keys View, again, in the winter months, it can get a little bit windy. When I was there with my friend, we were trying to record and everything, and the wind was so strong that I couldn't even hold myself because it was just like blowing me back. So one of the last things that I would recommend you take a look when you visit Joshua Tree National Park is this really awesome rock that looks like a skull. So it's actually called Skull Rock. And what's cool about it is if you actually stand really close to it, it honestly looks like a skeleton. And it's awesome because you can get a lot of pictures there, and yeah, it's one of my favorite things to visit about Joshua Tree National Park. And then in general, just driving around the park for hours and hours and hours and just admiring the desert and admiring the plants and everything that you see there, even though it's a desert, it's just beautiful. So Joshua Tree National Park, highly recommended. You do have to pay a fee when you enter the park. It's about $25. Keep in mind though that this fee is actually good for 7 days. So if you are planning to visit Joshua Tree and you're planning to stay in the area and you want to visit it more than once in the matter of 7 days, that pass is good for that. So you can actually visit the park multiple times without having to pay that fee again. Number 2 on my list is literally the land of extremes. It's called Death Valley National Park. It's about 2.5 hours north of Los Angeles versus Joshua Tree, which was east of Los Angeles. And the reason why this park is literally the land of extreme is because on July 10th, 1913, it was the only place to ever record a temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy, 134 degrees Fahrenheit. Believe me, if I was there, I would literally die. I've seen pictures of people literally cooking scrambled eggs on the road because of how hot it is. And it's just dry. I mean, it's one of the driest places that I've ever visited. It's also one of the most beautiful places that I've ever visited. The last time I was there, we experienced something insane. We experienced something called a super bloom. So super blooms in Death Valley don't happen often. The last one that I saw was the first one to happen in over 10 years. And the reason why this happened is because there was so much rain that year that it allowed the soil to produce flowers. And it was awesome. I mean, the fact that you were in a desert where there's basically no life, but then you saw all these flowers everywhere blooming. I was in awe. Now, Death Valley has a lot of interesting places to visit. One of those is actually called the Mesquite Sand Dunes. What's cool about the Mesquite Sand Dunes is that that's where they actually shot part of Tatooine in Star Wars A New Hope, which is really cool. I mean, the fact that you can, you know, be in a place where they shot maybe one of your favorite movies is actually pretty cool. And it's sand dunes, so you feel like you are in a very legit desert because they're so big that you can just see it for miles and miles and miles and miles. The second spot that I highly recommend you visit in Death Valley is actually called Zabriskie Point. So Zabriskie Point is filled with all these insane looking mountains that create a really unique texture. If you actually see it from above, which I'm gonna show some footage right now with the drone, you can actually see the texture of the mountains and just create this awesome thing. Like, it's like a wallpaper. I mean, I have a bunch of those wallpapers. Another spot that I highly recommend, it's actually one of my favorites. It's called the Devil's Golf Course. What's cool about Devil's Golf Course is it's pretty much a flat land of salt, but the salt has been forming there for so long that it actually creates all these spikes, and it's actually pretty sharp. Like, even if you try to walk on it, you can actually feel it in your shoes if you're not wearing comfortable shoes. I actually unfortunately had to throw away the shoes that I had when I went there because Devil's Golf Course literally ruined my shoes. The next spot that I highly recommend that you guys visit if you go to Death Valley is actually called Badwater Basin. So what's cool about Badwater Basin is it's actually one of the lowest points in North America. So it's actually 282 feet below sea level, which is crazy. I'm from Florida, and Florida is below sea level, but it's definitely not 282 feet below sea level. So when I was actually at Badwater Basin and I looked up, because there's actually a sign at the top of the mountain letting you know, hey, this is sea level. And I looked up and I was like, holy crap, I'm actually below Florida. So just thinking about that, and I started picturing, you know, a map and all these crazy things that you guys don't have to picture, but it's awesome. Just the fact that you are 282 feet below sea level. I also recommend that if you go to Joshua Tree and Death Valley, make sure you take food, because you're in the middle of nowhere. Odds are you're not gonna find anything nearby. So make sure you take a lot of food. Make sure you take a lot of water, because odds are you will get dehydrated if you do not take water. Even if you go in the winter month, even when you go when it's cold, it doesn't matter. It's still the desert. So things can happen, things can change. The sun can be beaming down at you and it can get really hot out of nowhere. So take lots of water. Take comfortable clothing. You're going to be out in nature the entire day. You don't wanna go dress with jeans and fancy shirts and fancy shoes or anything like that. Make sure you're comfortable, because, you know, if not, then it's just not gonna be a fun experience. So highly recommend those two things. All right, guys, so this is it. The number one, my favorite national park of all time. Drum roll, hold that thought. Even Mario agrees that this is the best national park that you have to visit in California. Thanks, Mario. And that is so Yosemite National Park. I'm sure you all have seen Yosemite Revisited. I'm sure you all have seen, before Yosemite Revisit, Unforgettable Journeys Yosemite. I'm sure you've seen all of my photos, all of my videos. Yosemite is my obsession. I am literally obsessed with this park. And it's for good reason, because it's one of the most unique places that I've ever visited, not just in California, but also in all the places that I've visited in America. And that's including Zion National Park, which is not in California, it's in Utah, but I'll talk about Zion some other time. But Yosemite is something that it's right out of a movie. It's like another planet, because it has waterfalls, it's a forest, it has these amazing mountains that when you look at them from up close, it's like, holy crap, like this is amazing. So one thing that I love so much about Yosemite, but at the same time I hate so much about Yosemite, is its iconic waterfall, which is called Yosemite Falls. Yosemite Falls is one of the biggest waterfalls in the world. Why do I love it so much? Because it's a waterfall and it's beautiful. Why do I hate it so much? Because it's such an intense hike to get all the way to the top. I mean, if you've seen my Yosemite videos, you can see how insane and intense that hike is, but it is beautiful. I'm sure you've heard of El Capitan. I'm sure you've heard of Half Dome. These are just iconic places that they mention everywhere in the news, in the movies. It's literally everywhere. Operating systems have been named after it. It's everywhere in media. Let me just stop right there. It's just amazing. It's one of the most beautiful parks. If you're planning on camping at Yosemite, Yosemite offers a lot of different campgrounds. One thing that I would recommend is that you check online, just because Yosemite is such a popular park that a lot of those campgrounds actually get booked months and months in advance. If all of those campsites get booked, there's a few that are first come, first serve. One of those is actually called Camp 4. The thing about the first come, first serve campsites is that you literally have to be there in the early morning hours, and you're not even guaranteed a spot. You have to wait there outside of the actual station where they're gonna hand out the tickets for the campsite. And if you get in, good. If you don't get in, unfortunately, you won't be able to camp there. So my recommendation is, if you're planning on having a camping trip in Yosemite, just make sure you book in advance. It literally takes a few seconds. It doesn't take that long. And then once you do your reservation, that's it. You have a campground, and you don't have to worry about, oh, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna have a campsite? So highly recommend it. And like all national parks that I've been mentioning, Yosemite has its share of amazing places to visit. I mentioned Yosemite Falls. Now there's this other spot called Glacier Point, which is actually above Yosemite Valley. So Glacier Point gives you a really, really close look at Half Dome. So if you guys don't know about Half Dome is actually a very popular mountain, or I would say rock, that people like to climb. Then of course there's El Capitan, which I'm sure you guys have heard about it. El Capitan is extremely popular for mountain climbers. So sometimes when you're actually in the valley and it's nighttime, you can actually see flashlights, from El Capitan, of all the climbers that are pretty much staying overnight, which I still, to this day, I find it incredibly insane that people actually sleep in the air. You're pretty much sleeping in the air, which I would be, I can't do that. Now, what's the best season to visit Yosemite? It really is up to you. If you're into snow, obviously winter. If you wanna, see how the leaves are changing colors, then obviously fall. Summer, it can get a little bit hot just because you're in a valley, so you're surrounded by mountains, so all the heat gets trapped in the valley. So my recommendation is honestly late fall, early winter, if you wanna see the snow, or early spring, so that you can see, the waterfalls and everything. All right guys, so that is it. There you have it. Those are my 3 top national parks. Again, like I mentioned, this is just my own personal pick, just from all the other parks that I've visited. Joshua Tree, Death Valley, and Yosemite just offer something completely different and unique. I'm definitely gonna make a lot more videos, because I'm definitely planning on visiting a lot more parks, not just in California, but also around the country and eventually around the world. There's just so many places to visit, and I can't wait to show you all of those places, not just from national parks, but cities, but everything. I mean, I'm just getting started with this channel, and just the ideas that I have and everything that I want to do in this channel is going to be amazing, and I really, really hope you guys enjoy it. So before I finish, I would love to hear from you guys. I mean, I don't know about every place in the country or in the world, especially national parks. So if you guys have any tips, any suggestion of places that I should visit, please, I would love to know. Please mention that in the comments below. If there's anything that you would like to know about the 3 parks that I mentioned, please also mention that in the comments below. And if you guys like this video, please do not forget to hit the like button, and please do not forget to subscribe. There's a lot more content that I have coming up that I know you guys are really going to enjoy. So stay tuned for more. And thank you guys for watching this video. Until next time.